So great to see you all here this morning. My name is John Judge. I am a faculty member in mechanical engineering here at the university and the dean of the School of Engineering. And it's my privilege to welcome you all here this morning to this conference, which is the second in what we hope will be an ongoing series, a conversation about AI. The first was a couple of years ago. It was called Virtue in the Loop, and it was about ethics in military AI applications. I'm happy to welcome you all here, and I'm happy to thank Leidos, and I'm going to be introducing our keynote speaker, Ron Keesing, Senior Vice President for Technology Integration at Leidos. He is going to give some opening remarks to frame the conference before we get into our first panel. As I said, Leidos is a sponsor of this event and was a sponsor of our first event a couple of years ago. So we're very grateful to Leidos for the support and very grateful to Ron for being here to kick off our conference this morning. Let's give him a round of applause.
All right. I'd like to begin by thanking Dr. Kilpatrick, Dean Judge, and Catholic University for hosting today's conference and for their continued partnership in helping lead a deep exploration of the ethics of artificial intelligence. I'd also like to express my profound appreciation for Professor Jonathan Ascanis and the team here at CUA, including Sonia Morales, Eddie O'Brien, J.C. Hall, and Caitlin Patella for their outstanding work in organizing this conference around such a timely and much-needed topic. Finally, I'd like to thank our keynote speaker, Michael Kratsios, and all the distinguished speakers and panelists who will be joining us today. As Dean Judge mentioned, in April 22, we sponsored Catholic University's hosting of Virtue in the Loop, Designing Ethical Military AI Systems, a conference focused on expanding the conversation around ethical AI. Speakers and participants discussed not just how we prevent bad outcomes when AI is used in military systems, but also the important possibility that AI, if designed thoughtfully and used responsibly, could actually foster better and more ethical outcomes. We also shared ideas and lessons learned from military applications of AI that could help drive toward this outcome. The intervening months have seen an explosive growth in AI, particularly generative AI based on large language models. The launch of OpenAI's ChatGPT was a watershed moment in the history of AI. It became the most quickly adopted technology in history. It also allowed the public their first opportunity to experiment with an open-ended AI system, to envision the ways it could be both used and misused. That's why, together with our friends at Catholic University, we thought it was important to continue the discussion around AI and ethics with a focus on the implications of generative AI for national security. ChatGPT has highlighted and even magnified some of the glaring ethical limitations that have affected generations of AI systems from the earliest days of the field. And believe me, I do go back to early days. The degree to which AI can exhibit biases it inherits from humans, and the risk that it can amplify and even codify those biases. The ease with which AI can produce information that seems meaningful but is in fact meaningless. The lack of transparency or scrutability. The ease with which humans can manipulate AI into doing the wrong thing, from designing new cyber attacks to authoring disinformation. And the massive size and complexity of leading generative AI systems like ChatGPT has even brought new ethical risks into prominence, from the consent of data owners and creators when their work is used to train these new AI systems, to the concentration of AI power into a small set of actors, to the massive energy required to build and operate algorithms like ChatGPT with associated implications to climate and global resources. These systems have also raised new concerns around security, from the risk of exposing sensitive data through connections to commercial services to the risk that the underlying large language models themselves may be subject to manipulation. So, while generative AI is already being widely used in the commercial world, adoption within national security and national security missions has been much slower, and with good reason. Leading commercial tools simply haven't been available in secure environments, and the national security community has been justifiably reluctant to put unproven technology into mission-critical applications. They will remain reluctant until we find ways to address key ethical concerns and mitigate critical security risks. Yet the potential benefits of generative AI for national security missions are simply too great to ignore. At Leidos, we've seen that when used effectively and securely, tools like ChatGPT and the underlying technology of large language models are transformative. They can reduce software time and effort by a third. They can make better triage decisions than humans. They can provide more responsive help desk support at a fraction of the cost. They can find connections across languages and different types of media. Further, this power of generative AI also is presenting threats to national security, and it's equally important that those within the community come to understand the potential of the technology to both protect and disrupt our national interests. So how can we responsibly harness this power of generative AI for national security missions while also understanding the risks it poses? These are the questions that bring us all together today. Obviously, awareness of the potential impact of this technology, along with its ethical implications and security challenges, is a critical first step, and one that will be a recurring theme throughout this day. But I'm also excited to see speakers and audience members share ideas and lessons together about how we can manage the limitations while still exploring and exploiting this technology's potential for good. With that in mind, I'd like to share some lessons learned from Leidos, where we've been working with large language models since well before the launch of ChatGPT. The first and most important is that security must be a cornerstone when using this technology. Fortunately, much of what we need to do around security is not new, and we should not reinvent the wheel or panic, but rather leverage existing tools and policies as much as possible. For example, when ChatGPT first became available, many organizations felt it was necessary to block access from inside their networks to eliminate the threat of data loss. At Leidos, we put a speed bump in the path of employees accessing these systems, reminding employees of our existing policies, which prohibit putting sensitive data into any external system, whether it's ChatGPT or Google. That allowed users to explore and innovate from the earliest days while also relying on existing data loss prevention policies. But we also focused immediately with partners like AWS and Microsoft on getting access to the most sophisticated large language models running in secured environments. That's allowed us to build up experience on applying generative AI to real use cases with real data while keeping that data secure. The second lesson we'd share is that successful and trusted AI projects almost always center around incremental introduction of AI capabilities to establish human-machine partnerships. This is particularly crucial where generative AI is concerned. It's remarkable technology, but it needs to be actively monitored, governed, and managed by people. And the best results come when people use their background knowledge, common sense, and moral judgments to complement and control AI. The next lesson I'd like to share is that where governance is concerned, particularly around generative AI, it's important to focus on risk. President Biden's recent executive order brought a much-needed focus to AI governance. Yet for governance to be implemented effectively without completely choking off innovation, it must be grounded in a risk-based approach. The use of generative AI to nominate potential targets is much higher risk than using AI to nominate potential graphics in PowerPoint. At Leidos, we've developed a tiered risk model that allows low-risk projects to continue moving forward quickly, while focusing on mitigating and monitoring ethical risks around higher-risk projects. This fosters innovative experimentation and focuses limited resources where they are most needed. It also creates opportunities to understand how generative AI may be used both for and against our interests. The final lesson I'd share is that staying on top of generative AI requires a constant commitment to learning and adapting to new knowledge. The field moves so quickly that the ethical or security challenges we thought were most important 6 months ago can quickly become irrelevant. For example, the hallucination displayed by models like ChatGPT can in many cases be significantly reduced in applied settings through techniques like prompt engineering, retrieval augmented generation, fine-tuning, and guardrailing. But as quickly as these new techniques arise, so too do new challenges. So we must be willing to adapt our understanding of ethical and security challenges at the pace of the technology, and that's a challenge. Those are a few of our lessons, but I hope the participants in today's conference share their own best practices and techniques for using generative AI to enhance national security while protecting against ethical and security risks. It's simply too important for us not to come together and share what we know to accelerate understanding and responsible adoption of this technology. We must help our nation's leaders prepare for a rapidly approaching future where generative AI is ubiquitous. I'd like to leave you with a final thought, and it's one area where Catholic University's mission and focus on the human aspects of technology aligns directly with my own experience and beliefs. In the popular imagination, AI often operates independently of, and sometimes even in opposition to, people. Yet in practice, people are almost always directly involved, from building AI to operating it to governing it. So I hope that we can avoid the inevitable temptation to center the conversation solely around the technology itself. And as we consider the role of people in AI, I offer one last observation. AI is, and always has been, a mirror of ourselves. That means creating secure and ethical generative AI for national security requires that we commit to building, operating, and governing AI in a manner that reflects the best in ourselves. Thank you.